Okay, so we've talked about creating screens for potential users and how exactly to identify the use cases that they might require. But how exactly do we build things, right? So in vibe coding, there are four types of primary things that you can use to be able to do things, right? The first category of things is called terminal agents. These are things like codecs or Claude Code. These are things that you type in the terminal. You can use them in the terminal to give them instructions again in natural languages, but you can look at what they are doing within the terminal itself. The second class of things that now exists is, for example, the Codex GUI. This is primarily an agent manager GUI. You don't actually see files, you only see what are the tasks that you've given to various agents and what are they doing currently. You can also see diffs, but you don't actually see all the code that is present in a particular folder. You can also use IDEs. You can use something like Cursor, VS Code, Anti-Gravity. These are IDEs which are supposed to have some sort of an agent manager sometimes, but mostly it gives you direct access to your code. So if you're a little more familiar with coding, this is typically a choice that people make. It also has access to your local file system. It understands what is in your folder. It is probably also able to run commands on your behalf, right? Of course, with your permission. And finally, there is a fourth one, which is typically not done, but I would really recommend it for people doing this course, which is doing things on the LLMs themselves using API calls. So remember, we're not only building products using AI, we are also building products which use AI in a very native way. And for those things, you will have to make API calls to these LLM endpoints that Gemini, OpenAI, etc. offer, right? When you have to make API calls, you have to understand exactly what is the context that you're giving to the LLM, and then what is it that it will be able to deliver for you. So we will talk about this in a little more detail in a later class. But for now, let's try to use one of these to generate a simple website and try to see what exactly is the website. So in this particular lecture, I'm going to be talking with anti-gravity. This is what the anti-gravity interface looks like. I've just opened an empty folder, which is called basic website here. And we will try and build very simple things so that we can see how exactly does it work. I've opened the agent manager, and in the agent manager, I'm going to ask it, maybe I'll just start a new conversation here. Right, this is a new conversation. So build a very basic website with no style, only semantic HTML, which has a home page and a few articles linked directly on this page. I'll just add pure HTML because I just want to demonstrate what exactly does HTML have and what can you see once this thing has been done. Right, so it analyzes what this particular folder has. It creates a task list that it is going to do, and it is going to do this, check this task list one by one. It has now created the implementation plan, is updating the task documentation. You can see that it has created this plan. Now it is waiting for my approval, and I'm going to say proceed. So it is creating one index.html. You can see that this file has now appeared here. And it is now creating these three articles as well with some basic articles, but using semantic HTML. And I will just show you what a semantic HTML means. So from HTML5 onwards, there is this support for not only having HTML, which is contains divs and other things, but also has things like headers and then nav for navigation, main section, and within the section you have articles and so on. Right, so let me just open the agent manager again, see if this is done. Yes, it is done. It has created a walkthrough that it has done all of this work for us. Okay, I'm going to accept the changes that it has done, and I will open this in a website. So for opening this website, if you're actually not making any API calls, we will come back to what API calls are. So you can actually just open the folder and double click on the file to be able to see what is the website. So you can see here we have these three articles and there is a home page, and you've just linked all of these together. When we right click and inspect this element, we can also see what exactly is the HTML that enables this kind of thing. If you want to see what is, for example, the importance of web accessibility, you can go and click on this particular thing and it will highlight what you're talking about. So the importance of web is a ahref on H3 within this particular article section. And it will also show you the sizes of these elements on the left hand side when you hover here. Right, so on the sources side, you can see that this is just one index.html. There is nothing else in currently which is present here. Let's go ahead and click on this article1.html. This is a pretty similar structure. As you will see, this just contains HTML, head, and then header, nav, main, footer, body, right? So this is how pure HTML looks like. Now let's add some colors to it, maybe some style to it, right? So let's go back to our agent manager and I'm going to ask it on this basic website, I want to add a modern light blue and white style with contrast in buttons, right? So go ahead and implement this. So now what it is going to do is going to create a CSS file. It is going to edit all of the HTML files so that they now use the HTML. Right, so it is reading all of these files and understanding what is in this file and therefore what is the corresponding CSS that needs to be created. Now it has created an implementation plan and the style.css design. Let's see what the CSS implementation plan is. It is pretty straightforward. We are just linking the new style.css and we are adding some of these elements in style.css. Go ahead and implement it. Okay. So now it has created this implementation style. It has created a new style.css, which we're going to just see shortly. Okay, it seems most of these things have been analyzed and it is just going to edit all of them with the style.css and classes. I'm going to skip the verification on the browser. Okay, and this is it is actually trying to open the website and check whether it is rendered correctly, but now you can see what exactly is on the website. Right, let's open this website manually. It is trying to create something else. I think, okay. I actually closed the page, so it is going to error out. Open it again, and it is testing some basic JavaScript as well. Okay, so let me parallelly open this file again by accepting the changes that it have been made. Once again, I will reveal this in the Finder and just double click to open this website. And you can see this is now looking pretty nice. Let's inspect what exactly is happening. And to your surprise, actually nothing much has changed here. Right, so the HTML is still pretty much the same. No major changes here. So how exactly is this getting the styling? Let's go to the sources and we'll see that there is a style.css which is present now. So you can see for different sections of the website, the style is now mentioned in the style.css, and that's where it has specified which colors to use and what font family, etc. to use for the website. So this looks much better, right? So it is generally a good idea to add a style to the website, and it is still having the same elements that it had before. Okay, so let's go back to the agent and try to add some more features now. Okay, so I'm going to start a new conversation and I'm going to say to demonstrate JavaScript, I want to add a like feature to the website, to the articles. Implement this on the website. Right, so as you can see in the prompt, I'm going to now show you what exactly is the role of the JavaScript and how exactly does it work when you click on a particular element and it responds back to you. So it is now, first of all, understanding what context it is working in. Created an implementation plan, and it automatically proceeded with the implementation. Great. So you can see that it is creating a script.js. It's going to add this functionality, and it is adding these styles to the style.css. I'm going to ask it to skip the functionality, but it is going to test the same thing. So let's go back here and accept the changes which have been made. So you can see there is a new script.js which has been added apart from the style sheet which was added before. So let's open the browser again and see if there are any changes. Okay, so great. So this thing is now working, although it is working in a toggle mode to just demonstrate the JavaScript. That seems like a bug. So why don't we ask it that we want to fix this? It seems that the like button is a toggle. I want you to remember the likes and increment them by one whenever it is pressed. Great, that seems like a pretty much small task. It is directly going ahead and implementing the click feedback, and it has updated the script.js for increment logic. So once again, let's load this up, and now this is working correctly. Great, but how exactly is this working again? Let's inspect what is happening here. So you can see the HTML has not changed much except this in like container, which has now been added. But the most interesting part is now happening in the script.javascript. Right? So you can see that in the JavaScript, there are these things happening. Let me just open this in. Okay. So there is a function init likes, and this has been added as a DOM content loaded event listener. So DOM is the document object model. Every browser has a document object model, which is parsing the HTML and rendering your website on the front end, right? And what it is saying is the JavaScript is saying as soon as the DOM content is loaded, add an event listener to initiate this function. And it is initiating this particular function, which is a JavaScript function. It creates some of these variables and just sets things up. Then there is another function called handle click. And when exactly does this called? This is being called as an event listener on a click event, which is being done on the like button. So like button is a container.query selector on the .like button. So you can see on the website that actually the like button spec is part of this class like button, right? And this is within this like container with this particular ID article 1. So let's go back to the code and try and understand how is this working. So there is a like button which has been selected for each container. And within this container, we've added a content listener, which is going to handle this particular click. And in the click ID, there is an article ID, there is a count, which is going apart from the like button. Using these three things, we are now having some logic here, which is going to increase the number of likes as we do this. Right? So I hope this gives you some understanding of how things are working. First, we created an HTML structure, which is just a bare bone structure of what the website is. We added some style to make it much nicer. And then we finally added some functionality which can handle logic at the user side, run code on the user side. So this is by default the JavaScript that you can run on the client side. So I hope this was useful and this helps you create the screens for the product that you're building. Wish you good luck. Thank you.